Yep.
Okay.
All right, we're going to get started.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jean Anderson here at the South Central Library System. I'm actually broadcasting today from the Portage Public Library. So thank you all for joining us today. Today we have YSS Powerhouse Presents STEAM Programming for the STEAM Anxious. And we have Julie, Jenna, and Emily with us today. Before I turn it over to them, if you have any questions today or need any help, have any technical issues, please feel free to use the questions panel. And I also have Leah Langby from Indian Head Federated Library System on with me today, helping me out with questions and any technical issues. So either Leah or I will get back to you. And before I introduce Emily, Julie, did you want to do an introduction?
Yep. Yeah. Hi, this is Julie, and YSS Powerhouse Presents is organized and sponsored by the Youth Services section of the Wisconsin Library Association. All of our presenters today are YSS members, and together we are stronger. So please join YSS and join us in sharing the knowledge.
Thank you, and thank you for providing this webinar. I think it's awesome. And Emily is the Youth Services Librarian from Richland Center, and there you go, show your screen. And Emily, you are up, ready to go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Zorea, and I am here in rural Richland Center, the birthplace of Frank Lloyd Wright. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to be focusing a lot on STEM programming that we have done at our library, and STEM is an acronym for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. Our webinar is also going to be focusing on STEAM, which brings in the A or the arts into different programs. And I'm really going to focus on doing programming with no budget. So here at Brewer Public Library, I have a fairly small budget for programs, and yet I saw that there was a real need to introduce STEM into it. And so I was able to just kind of look at our budget realistically and see what we could do. So all of the programs that I'm going to share have a budget limit of 30 cents a child or less, and usually it is less. So hopefully you'll be able to find ideas that'll fit your community regardless of the size of budget and resources that you have to work with. And so I'm just going to start right into this. A good place to begin if you have STEM programming in mind that you would like to introduce, or even if you're doing this but would like to just look at your program and reevaluate it, is to just ask, why and what place does STEM or STEAM have in your library? And for me, when I was looking at different after-school programs, I was reading different research, and I was finding out that the research and the studies are backing up what I was hoping for, which was to find a way of using the public library as a space where our community, our youth, our parents, our teachers, our siblings, even strangers could come together and explore using the services that our public space has to offer. And something to keep in mind is that American adults only will have spent 5% of their life in formal LLA's education. And most of their learning, particularly in the STEM or STEAM field, is going to be happening outside of that formal environment. But all the learning that children and adults, young adults receive is going to complement and enhance that education that they're receiving into the classroom. And so for us, I've really felt that STEM programming could fill a need to support the education that our teachers are providing our students, and also give just families a place to come to the library, experiment with different things, try different things in a way that wasn't as structured as a classroom. So just more free learning where all ages and all abilities could be welcomed, and find a place here at the table, which is, I think, what all of us strive to do in our public libraries. And so for those of you who take tons of notes, I have already done those for you. So the beginning part of this year, when I was doing a lot of these STEM workshops, I was realizing that I was spending a lot of time taking down notes. And I realized that I feel that so many librarians are doing a lot of the same things, and why not share those ideas together so that we're not spending all of our time lesson planning, but we can instead be offering these programs or working on some of those other duties that we have. So my blog is the Sowing Seeds Librarian, and kind of at that top tab bar, you can see Kids STEM workshops, those will have all of the lesson plans that I've done. So I break it down where the STEM at work and the cost per child and the room setup and any kind of downloads or lesson plans or different online resources that I've used. I put it all up there. This is something that I refer to a lot when I'm asked to duplicate a program if a school visit is going to be happening at the library. But then this is also something that I just wanted to share and make available to the wider community so that all of us can be accessing this information and using it together, which is, I think, a real purpose of the youth service section of WLA. So please check that out. All of the notes are already taken for you. Okay, and I am going to just get right into it. So this was a great program that we offered, Bridge Engineering with Newspaper. It was absolutely no cost to us to offer this program. I was able to go to a local print shop and they gave me just boxes of newspapers and shopper stoppers that they were otherwise going to recycle. And I welcomed youth into the library and we had a brief kind of warm up and lesson where we talked about different bridge designs and engineering principles. And then I challenged the youth to take this newspaper and the yarn that I made available and construct any kind of bridge that they would choose. And then once they were ready, we put that bridge over a cardboard box and then started stacking books on top of it. So this is, you can see the shelving cart that I have there and then a whole stack of books that were waiting to be shelved. And we just started doing that. And I think the most books we were able to get on top of a student's bridge was like 400. And at that point, I just cut it off because it was getting too high and it was going to fall and possibly hurt someone. But what a great opportunity for kids to kind of experiment and get messy with newspaper and with yarn and to construct a really good design that they could be proud of. And then even to look at their peers and see what they are building and then maybe to try and build a different model. So completely free program to offer. It was a lot of fun. This took an hour. I did it with pre-K all the way to 5th grade and everyone really benefited from it and loved it. So a really excellent program if you're looking to get started and want to do so without an investment. So bats in flight, this is just kind of a picture of a template. It's on the blog, and we're looking at different flight patterns of bats. And so for this one, you just take the template and you cut it out. This was provided to me by an area teacher. And then you tape that head part back, which you can kind of see in the photo. And then they're pretty faint, but hopefully you can see the 2 paper clips that I have on the wings. And so the idea is wherever you put those paper clips, the flight pattern of that bat is going to change. And so once students have their bat cut out, the head taped back, and some paper clips on the wings, I invited them to just kind of shoot it out across the room as you would do with a paper airplane. And then we kind of measured and tracked how far their bats were able to fly. This was, absolutely for us free to offer. It was just the cost of paper and then that little piece of tape and then the cost of the paper clips. I will say if you're going to do this, have way more paper clips than you think you need. Even though in the picture, there's only the 2 paper clips on the wings, we had students that were experimenting with as many as like 10 paper clips. And that's something that I didn't want to limit because experimentation is all a part of STEM and STEAM and finding an answer and testing out that hypothesis. So we did this around Halloween. It was kind of like a spooky STEM idea. And kids absolutely loved it. This program went for a full hour with kids experimenting with different ideas, different flight patterns. We had not races, but challenges to see which bat could fly the farthest. These worked surprisingly well. And so be prepared to have students that will be able to stand at maybe one corner of your programming room and shoot their bat out, and it will go all the way to the wall before it stops. And so what a cool way to experiment with flight and then weight distribution. The next program is binary code. So for those of you who may be not familiar, binary code is a series of zeros and ones, and this is what websites and computers are based off of. And so this was kind of an eye-opener for me, considering how often we use technology devices, and they're built around this binary code, and I didn't know how it worked. And so for this program, we just use perler beads and pipe cleaners. You can get 6,000 perler beads on Amazon for $13 if you are in need of those. And then I just had some kind of trays that kept the beads out. And then I invited students to write their name in binary code and then using the beads, one color for the zeros and then another color for their ones, go through what that letter would be in binary alphabet and choose the correct bead and place it on their pipe cleaner. And so this was a great program. We also did some things where we experimented with writing numbers in binary code using different cards, and the lesson plans for that are on the blog. But this was just a really neat take-home craft that kids were able to do. And like I said, I had pre-K students that were able to do this with some slight parent help all the way to middle schoolers who really got into it. And what a neat kind of piece of jewelry or take-home that you're able to use while experimenting with something that not a lot of them or their friends had previously been familiar with. So again, a really inexpensive activity, introduces them to a larger concept of computer science and just kind of seeing how that alphabet fits into a zeros and ones type of a code. Floater boat building, this was one of my favorites. For this one, we did make a little bit of investment. What you see there is an underbed storage container from Walmart, and I think I spent about $80 and bought 5 or 6 of these and filled them about 1/4 of the way with water. I took $20 to the bank and asked for them to exchange it all in pennies, and that's what we used for our weight. And then I had heavy-duty tinfoil, which I had pre-cut into about 1.5 foot sections. So when students came in, we talked about different boats in history or different boats designs. We talked about the Archimedes principle and displacement and why do large ships float in the ocean? Why don't they sink? Because they're dense and they're heavy. So we went through all of those things. I had a really brief experiment with like a small bowl of water and then different objects that we threw in and had the kids estimate, is this going to float or won't? And kids would vote back and forth. For the actual boat building activity, kids were able to take 2 of these strips of tinfoil and construct any kind of a boat shape that they wanted to. I had the pennies on the table in different little craft caddies, and then students were able to just take these handful of pennies, and then I asked them to place their pennies on their boat and count to see how much weight they were able to carry. Usually what happened is that the first boat wasn't very successful, so they were able to go back and try again, and the boats progressively kept getting more and more complex and sturdy and able to hold more and more weight. So one student was able to get 500 pennies on his before it finally sank. And what an also great way to just kind of call out one student's achievements and talk about their design and different design choices. And after we did that, I noticed that a lot of students were just felt more comfortable with experimenting and doing things differently because they knew that it could be done. So a really inexpensive program once we made that initial investment in the underbed storage containers, which I really liked because they were shallow, and I was able to stretch them out over tables. And then now it'll just be the cost of the tinfoil to continue this program. Catapults. This was our largest program that we hosted last year. I think I had something like 120 youth and adults that attended it. And so on the right, you see a photo of a catapult very close to the one that we built. For this one, you just need popsicle sticks and tongue depressors and rubber bands. And you just kind of bind all these pieces together until you get something that looks like a catapult. We actually rubber banded spoons on the top part of it, so it was turned into more of a mangonel catapult. So we were able to discuss different catapult engineering designs and what they could be used for and what they have been used for throughout history. And then I handed out pom-poms to all the students because if a pom-pom hits someone in the face or the eye, you know, very low risk there. And then we invited students to shoot them off. So what you see in the picture of the left is just kind of this collaboration of all of these kids, just kind of firing them off and just, you know, testing out different principles. Eventually we had the kids line up in a row and shoot it off, and we saw which one went the furthest. And then we experimented with things where the catapult had to be on the floor and then they shot, and then they could be holding it in their hand off the floor and then they shot. And then we had it where they were able to hold it sideways or in different directions and then see what worked the best. And then we asked the kids what did work the best and what would you do differently next time. And just really briefly, and I usually share this story, it kind of surprised me when we were doing this program. I didn't think that this would be very difficult for older students to put together, and I had a class of 5th graders that I did this with, and I would say probably about a third of them struggle to put the rubber band over those popsicle sticks. And you know, I noticed girls with hair ties in their hair, and it's like, well, it's really similar, you know, you twist it like that. And they said, well, my mom does my hair in the morning. And after this program, I had parents come up to me and just kind of quietly say, thank you for offering that. I had no idea that my child didn't know how to twist a rubber band. But that's the kind of thing with these STEM programs, is that they're really hands-on. They're using everyday supplies that kids would have access to, but I don't know that these kids are taking advantage of the access that they're having. And so these kind of just show kids these really simple machines or toys or things that they can build at home and experiment with and just kind of learn those fine motor skills, which I'm hearing from teachers are kind of getting lost along the way, unfortunately. So this is kind of a way to bring those back in a really fun and new way, and to get parents and kids to experiment with household items where they otherwise might not. So this was one of our favorite programs. Truly awesome, and how can you not love Catapults? Marble maze, push and pull physics, pretty easy for this one. We just used styrofoam plates and painter's tape and scraps of paper, and then wiki sticks, which are essentially pieces of yarn that have been dipped in wax and are sticky, so they stuck to our plates, and then marbles. And then I just had kids design a maze for their marble to go through and tell me, you know, how do you reach the end and how do you know that you're at the end? This was a shorter program, so if you're looking for things that are more like in the 30-minute range, this was a great one for that. I had kids, if they were older, do more elaborate ones where they had to take 2 plates and somehow make attachments so that those were linked together and a marble was able to flow from one to the next. So there's ways of making it more challenging or more simple if you have younger students. So this example was done by an older student, but I had, you know, even pre-K students that maybe had 1 or 2 loops that the marble rolled through, and then that was it. But that's just fine. It was a cool toy. All of them asked to take the marble home. All of them took home their push and pull physics plates. Really a great experience to kind of watch parents also help the younger children and then also step back and let their older children do it on their own. Marshmallow Igloos, this was something where we were experimenting with geometry. I think that all the kids knew how to put together a cube, but in this case I asked them for a little bit more and asked them to make that rounded part for the top of their igloo. And so just using toothpicks and marshmallows, I showed them really briefly one way of doing it, and then I took my idea away and asked them to experiment on their own. And they came up with some really, really complicated designs. In some cases they had the little entryway going into the igloo. They linked different igloos together. We did this on a really cold evening, and it just kind of took over the library. They had so many cool designs. If you're going to do something like this, have way more toothpicks available than you think you need, just because kids just go through them really quickly, and quite a few of marshmallows. But still, we were able to budget this at 30 cents a child, and kids were able to use as much supplies as they needed. Straw towers, this one was pretty simple, just straws and paper clips, and just bending those paper clips is able to attach the straws together. For older students, we use the paper clips just because their fine motor skills were a little bit more advanced. For younger students, as you can see in the photo, we had tape and they were able to just tape things together. For this, I showed different pictures of famous edifices and asked them to do architecture in a similar style. So we did have designs that were similar to the Capitol or the White House. We also had the Sears Tower. And then we also had like a creative division where kids were able to construct any kind of building that they wanted to. But I was really impressed at how close a lot of their designs, just using these straws, were able to mimic famous architecture. And then coding with code.org. A lot is being said about coding in Wisconsin libraries right now, and a lot of questions are being asked. How does coding fit into our mission of public libraries? And I think the easiest way to think of this is that coding can be thought of as a literacy. So in the same way that youth are educated in how to read printed words and how that becomes a major communication form for them for the rest of their life, their lives are now dominated by technology, which is being run on the code used to build websites or apps or any kind of a digital device. Even washing machines now will have code involved to regulate the water temperature, for example. And so teaching kids to kind of open up that black box and see behind the user's preferences into the code that's actually constructing them, and even to show kids how to create that code on their own, switches them from being a consumer of media into being a producer. And that's what we hope, I think, with all kids with literacy, is to not just be reading, but also to think critically about it and to be able to be writing and producing on their own. So I've been doing coding programs using code.org, and I've been uploading all my lesson plans to the blog. So if you just want to read those over to get an idea of different things that we've done. It's been a very popular program, really, really successful, and I've been invited to the middle school, and so I'm going to try a new curriculum with them, which is Google CS First. So we're going to be trying our first program next week using that curriculum, and then I'll be uploading those lesson plans as well. So maybe having the two, you can kind of go back and forth and see what is best for your community. But really, there's a lot of high interest in this, especially with parents and with kids themselves that are realizing just how easy it is for them to create things on their own. Okay, and then my last thing to talk about is funding. So just in case you're like me and there just isn't enough budget funds to go around, a really simple idea to look for funding is to actually, kind of a sneaky way, is to ask your director, you know, who does your library pay bills to? What businesses are you a patron of? And then to look those companies up online, and many of them have foundations. And so I was able to find quite a bit of funding, for example, from We Energies Foundation. Well, our library is a patron of the We Energies company. They have a foundation, and one of their core missions is education and youth services. I was able to write a grant and receive funding specifically for STEM workshops. So that can be something that I was underutilizing, but whoever your library is a patron of, if they have a foundation or they have some kind of a community giving program, I feel that libraries, we already have a really strong reputation of public service, and so we're able to really use that reputation in a way that can communicate what we're doing far stronger than another organization that just doesn't have the legacy that we do. So good luck with all of that if you are fundraising. It was really successful for us, and I was able to fund all of our last year's STEM programs just from community grants. So that is what I have. Thank you all so much. Again, all of my lesson plans are on the sowingseedslibrarian.com blog. And if you use any of those lesson plans or have your own ideas, I'm always looking for different things that we can incorporate. So please drop me an email, and I would love to connect with you.
Thank you, Emily. And if anyone has any questions, go ahead and submit them. We have a minute or so before I turn it over to Julie. And if you saw one of my messages in there, I'm having some slight technical issues, so I just wanted to make sure I had a backup if I needed to. Does anyone have any questions for Emily? And Emily, I had one. Were you a teacher or a scientist before you became a librarian?
I was not.
No,
so
okay.
This is all new, and that's a really fun thing about this, is that you can really learn with your kids and just kind of pick up those things in your education that maybe we forgot about or that we just weren't interested in originally. So let's learn with the kids and keep the good ideas going.
Well, awesome. I'm not seeing any questions come in at this point. And
awesome.
I did put it in the chat, but I have everyone's slides, and I will be posting those along with the recording probably tomorrow morning. So just let you'll all get a copy of that with the follow-up email tomorrow. So thank you, Emily. And next up is Julie. 1 second, Julie, while I get transferred over to you.
Okay.
Did you get it? There you go.
I think so. Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Julie.
All right. So I'm going to focus today on the outreach kits that we created here at MCPL. Basically, why would we do it? As a larger library, we have a lot of really small branches, and in the past, we had created some programs in a box for use by our libraries. And we found that creating our STEAM kits was helpful for our branch. For our branches, as many of them did not have science, math, or technology backgrounds, and were intimidated by the thought of creating a program from scratch. So what's included? Basically, our STEM kits are created with a variety of age groups in mind. So for example, our banana autopsy kit is more suitable for teens. Our math games kit was more for upper elementary students. And we included all of the moving parts, and branches were responsible for, if they needed art supplies or craft supplies like pencils, scissors, or paper. And it was just a way for us to kind of keep their budget lower and to keep our budget lower and keep these things in circulation. Okay, it doesn't want to move. There we go. So I have some examples of our STEAM kits. This one is an example of our math kit. I bought a bunch of cards off of Amazon. I think the most expensive thing in this kit was the cribbage boards. We got 3 of them. And then I went online, and surprisingly, there are a variety of lesson plans and materials out there for doing math with card games. And so we did everything from playing war with multiplication to doing the pyramid solitaire where things had to add up to 13. And this kit kind of gets a double duty. I take it out for our family game nights, and a lot of kids and parents want to play cards, so it's kind of fun. And then I created handouts, and I even created a little PowerPoint on playing cribbage. So that one was a lot of fun, and that one gets a lot of use. Some of our smaller kits, so you can see there, we did sort of a spooky science kit. We've got the pop rocks and the balloons and the soda. We took hand gel and sparklies, and if you rub your hands and then go around and shake hands with people, it was a way to talk about how germs are spread. And then we kind of made haunted balloons. If you take a regular washer or screw and you stick it inside a balloon and then blow the balloon up, it makes a great noise. The kids loved it. It was a lot of fun. The other one we have here is just some stuff from our Meet Mr. Newton program, where we talked about Newton science and some information about him. And so we recreated some of his more famous experiments. This one is the same as the other one. We did the binary Bobbles Kit, very similar. We got beads and some string and taught kids about binary and had them make a bracelet with their name. So that one was pretty simple, but we've kept all the materials so branches could do it. So this one was a little bit more complicated. It started out with an LED Throwy. If you're not familiar with what that is, an LED Throwy is basically an LED light that is taped on with usually packing tape to a flat battery. And it's a lot of fun. I've taken this part of the kit all kinds of places, and kids love it. You put a magnet on the back and it will stick to anything metal. And it was created by graffiti artists to create these sort of light up glowing displays. And students always ask me, how long is it going to last? And I have one that I made just recently that has lasted about 2.5 weeks. So the battery, as long as the battery lasts, the light will glow. And you can expand this by teaching students how to add switches to turn them on or turn them off and things like that. I went in a little bit of a different direction. I'm kind of a crafty person, and so I expanded the idea of the LED Throwy by creating glowing jellyfishes. I did not come up with this idea. I found it on the Make website, and I did it for Teen Tech Week one year, and I had 3 boys who came, and even though there was sewing and cutting and material, they loved it. They made super creative little jellyfish, and it's basically you get the small vending machine capsules, do some hot glue gunning with string and ribbon and rickrack, and then make kind of a round circle that goes over the head. And like I said, some basic sewing, and all of the pieces for this are all together in one box. So if someone decides they want to do it, we can take it out and send it to them. This is probably the one that I've gotten the most questions about, is our banana autopsy. I did it as part of the Wisconsin Science Fest last year. There are a couple of caveats. Everybody has to supply their own bananas, but I will give them all of the things that I did with it. So we got dissection scissors, hemostats, and sutures, and some tweezers, and I dressed the bananas up in little outfits. You can see one there in the picture. The big thing that looks like a needle, that's actually a flavor injector, and I used that to inject the bananas so that they would have internal injuries with some tomato sauce. And my mom, who is a former emergency room nurse and was a supervisor nurse for a number of years, came in and showed us how to cut and suture our bananas as if they were getting an autopsy. And you can use the tweezers to pick evidence off of your dead banana. And we did things like break the little stems to pretend that they had head wounds, and I gave them tattoos. And it was kind of a fun combination of creativity and science. And so if someone were to ask for the kit, in the picture is kind of what they get, and then it's kind of up to them to recreate what they want to. So that one was a lot of fun. So for storage and funding, basically what we have is a room in our basement that is full of sealed plastic containers that are labeled with tape so that we can reuse the containers over and over. Usually the kit is created for an event, and then all of the remaining materials that are specific are together and can easily be sent out to a branch using the courier service. I added a line into my budget for kit restocking, and again, just strictly for things that were part of the kit. And we left things like, paper and pencil and scissors. That was more up to the branch staff to have. So I went really fast. So if you have questions, you can send me an email. They are a lot of fun. They're really easy to do. If you want to know about making kits or you're curious about why we decided to start doing that, feel free to just give me a call or drop me an email, and I'm always happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Julie. And if you hadn't talked more about the banana autopsy, that was going to be the first question. So thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions for Julie at this point? I do have one. How many branches are in Marathon County? How many of these kits do you do, or do they rotate? Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Uh-oh.
No, sorry. I'm muted. There we go. We have one large central branch, and then we have 8 smaller branches. And someone told me last week that our county is larger than Rhode Island. So we have branches that are 45 minutes to an hour away from us. So we get together usually once a year and trade ideas and have kind of an in-service. But for the most part, if they decide, hey, I'm really excited to do binary bobbles, I'm more than happy to send them their binary bobble kit and answer questions. So.
Okay.
Can I ask another question quickly about the banana autopsy? Did the kids, did you have them all ready to autopsy ahead of time, or was it part of the program to kind of create the injuries and the clothes and stuff like that? Or?
That was all me. It started out with just a really easy program in a book that I found on forensic science, and I thought this would be so much fun. And I got a little carried away. I will admit, not everybody tattoos their bananas. But I prepared them ahead of time and got just a ton of them ready. And my mom ended up making a lot of banana bread the following couple of days. We didn't have as big a turnout as I thought we would. And you really want to make sure, like, I prepared my bananas, I think, on the Sunday before the Thursday program. And a lot of them were kind of disintegrating a little bit by the time it got to Thursday. So you probably want to do your bananas closer to your program time. That would be my one caveat. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
But letting them sit for that long also gives it, that more forensic, decomposing part of it.
It did. It really did. We had a lot of fun. We didn't end up with a whole lot of kids, and it ended up being my mom, an older lady who came to watch that we talked into autopsying a banana, and then one of my teen advisory group students came, and I was so disappointed that I didn't get a bigger turnout. But it was just an awesome program, and I think, in a different set of circumstances, I think it was just a bad time of the year for this one. So I will probably do it again.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, is if you're going to do that one again.
Oh,
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I haven't seen any other questions come in, but if anybody does have questions anytime, go ahead and submit them. And we will have time at the end for any last questions. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jenna. Hold on one second, Jenna, while I get it changed over to you. There. Did you get that? There it is. Okay, good.
All right. Show my screen. There we go.
Yes. And Jenna is.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you look great.
All right. Good
Thank you.
afternoon. I'm very honored to be included with these fine folks. I've actually been following Emily's excellent blog and website, so I'm glad she spoke highly of herself and threw that out there. I highly suggest going to that. It's wonderful. Well, as I was preparing for this webinar, I quickly discovered that I did a lot of STEAM and STEM-based activities over the years. I often did it without even really thinking, well, this is exactly related to technology. I just knew I wanted to offer that because I knew it would be a good experience for the kids. And I'm sure when you sit down and think about it, you'll find that you have also done a fair amount as well. So yay, you. Today I'll be focusing on a small smattering of my favorites. Many are low cost with minimal effort, and a few more required a little more planning, like advanced registration and stuff like that. A little background about me: I am not a great artist, but I love art. I'm terrible at remembering sciencey facts, but I love science. And I still count on my fingers, so we all know what that means about my math skills. And I am no engineer or tech guru, but I love exploring, and I love providing opportunities for kids and families to explore as well. So without further ado, let's probably hide that. How do I make that go away? There we go. After school camps. We had a large latchkey population in Fall Creek, where I originally began working in libraries, and there were very few after-school childcare options in town. And I knew I wanted to offer something more often than, once a month type of a deal. And I had lots of ideas on, one specific topic. So I decided to make a week out of it and offer after-school camps. Advanced registration and a parent sign-off was required, kind of like a field trip at school. I had them include known allergies of the kids, as well as sign off on photo opportunities. Children from kindergarten through 6th grade were welcome to attend. They could attend one day, many days, or every day, up to 4 days. It ran Monday through Thursday. The start time was 20 minutes after school let out. Most of the children did walk from the school to the library, and it's about a good 10-15 minute walk, or parents could drop them off, and it lasted just under 2 hours. I also had a high ratio of country kids, the kids who lived out of town, attend, and I ran 3 different sessions in 2 years. Each after-school camp session had a different theme. I did marshmallows, wild and wacky, and insects. And I will be focusing on insects. The typical program schedule. Oh, excuse me. The typical program schedule included welcome. I invited everybody, and then we went over the rules and expectations, so everybody was on the same page. And I would always start every day with a story, because it was a library. Then we'd watch a short YouTube video about insects, or I would offer an interactive song. And then because they just came from after school and they had to kind of hike over, I did provide a snack. I know some libraries have rules against snacks, but we did not. And then we would do our main activity, or I would have a guest. And then after our main activity, I would provide a game that we could play together, and then free play as well, which included time for homework as well, which the parents and the guardians really appreciated. One guest that we had during this week of insects was Beaver Creek Reserve. Beaver Creek is a local organization that offers events on site, as well as traveling programs for schools and libraries. They have a really wonderful one about butterflies, so I had them come and do the program for butterflies. And then I also spoke with each science teacher that was at the school district, and one was available to bring some hissing cockroaches to our program. And he was actually very excited. I hopefully never forget this conversation. I called him and he said, yes, when do you want me? I've been wanting to purchase hissing cockroaches for school. This will be a perfect opportunity for me to do so. So he was very excited that he had yet one more reason to buy these really interesting insects to bring to the library. And the kids were so fascinated. That picture on the bottom there is my own daughter, and she always loves the creepy crawlies. So she was just over the moon. And the final day, we did a walking field trip to the local park. Again, the parents were aware and they were all okay with it. So we gathered up our supplies and we walked, it's about a 5-minute walk to the park, where we measured our own yarn pieces. I brought some rulers and scissors and balls of yarn, and they measured them in different lengths. And then I think I had 2 inches, 6 inches, a foot, and 2 feet. And then we would lay the yarn in circles on the ground, and they would observe inside that yarn circle what was on the ground, and then they could draw or write what they saw. And then we would go to a different area and we would lay down the larger yarn piece, and we would do that until we were all done with our yarn circles. And I would progressively increase the amount of time they had to draw and write as well. And then at the end of that, we walked back to the library and we shared our pictures and our stories, and we compared notes. And the children were very surprised with all of the interesting little things that they could see in a 2-inch circle. It was very wonderful. They would come up with stories, and I remember the free play that day, a couple of the boys got out puppets, and the puppets acted out different scenarios of insects living under the ground, for example. It was quite a lot of fun and very interesting. Another program that we had was a spring cleanup day, very science related, very environmentally friendly related. It was a collaboration with the village, scout groups, churches, Lions Club, and other interested parties. We met every couple weeks for a couple of months leading up to Earth Day. And then on Earth Day, volunteers were given tasks around town to clean up and beautify the village. You know, I had gone to the village board meeting, and they had offered ideas, and different community organizations had some wonderful ideas. So we planted flowers, we raked. These people here are they're digging a hole to put in a birdhouse, and it was a lot of fun. I don't remember exactly how many people volunteered, but it was close to 80 or 90 people, which was fantastic. We had adults, we had groups, we had kids just walking over because they saw us from, you know, their house. What's that gathering? And then they came over. We received lots of media coverage. The TV station came over and videotaped and did interviews. We provided gloves for the people who were picking up trash. And then in the lead up to the program, I had also listed, you know, if you're going to participate, if you want to make sure you wear layers, and if you are going to want to do digging and stuff like that, wear gardening gloves, and everybody came prepared. And then at the end of this event, we had treats that were provided. Different volunteers brought in goodies to eat and drink. And then we had a little bit of music to relax to and dance to at the end as well. And now for passive programming. This is one of my favorites of all time. I have Up Close with Trees up here on the left. We provided magnifying glasses. I asked our friends of the library group to donate some funds, and with the funds, I did purchase this magnifying glass. While I was in the library, we also had set out different magnifying glasses microscopes. We also had magnifying glasses, yes, but the microscopes, we had microscopes borrowed from IFLS as well that I only set out while I was available in the library, and then I would put them away when I left. And then we had different natural items. As you can see, there's a pine cone and pine leaves and some tree leaves, and I had some bark. And then I also taped down the up close with trees drawing items and provided different drawing materials. So the kids could look in the magnifying glasses and look under the microscopes and then draw what they saw. And then there was multiple pages, and I kept having to add pages because the kids loved drawing what they saw and talking and, hey, Miss Jenna, come look at this. Hey, Mom, come look at this. And it was very wonderful to see them very interested in the minute details of these wonderful natural items. And then as bark and leaves and tree bits do, they would disintegrate. So I would replenish items as necessary. I did this program in fall, so many leaves were readily available right outside the door. In the top right, we have 100 cup structures. This was also very fun. I had this up for a long time because the kids were constantly playing with it, every age group as well. Toddlers all the way up to the young adult patrons were using it. So all I had to do was buy, well, I bought extra cups because they are plastic, so they would break. So I just had to buy multiple cups, and then we had a patron donate digital cameras, and they were kind of old, so I wasn't terribly concerned with little fingers and little hands using them. So then they could build these structures, and then not only could they share them with other people in the library, they got to take pictures of their structures, and they would get so excited about this addition of tech. You know, they would see their parents take pictures of themselves and parents using cameras, and now they got to use cameras as well. And this little boy in the picture here is my little Jasper when he was younger, and he loved this as well. So I had to take a picture of him taking a picture. And after so many days, I would then print out the pictures and then post them near this play table area, so then other kids could get different ideas as well. And then the bottom corner, animal masks. This was a lot of fun. It was very silly. I just set out different animal masks. I don't remember if they were donated or how I got them, but they were fun little animal masks. There was an elephant and a giraffe and a bunny, and I would set them in this little basket here next to different animal books, and it was a wonderful way to highlight the animal nonfiction collection. I would set them out, the books would get checked out, and it was fantastic. And each one of these passive program activities was out generally about 3 weeks, and I would switch it out as I noticed interest was fading, because I didn't want it to become, you know, a behavior issue, like, oh, these cups are sitting out, I don't want to build a structure anymore, hey, let's throw it instead. So I would take it out and switch on to the next thing. Now, this is what we have up right now at my current library here in Chippewa Falls. It's our Whisper-ma-phone. I really wish I could claim ideas, or I wish could claim responsibility for this wonderful idea, but it was my coworkers, and I'm so glad that she did it. So I created these tongue twister posters, and then we put up the Whisper-ma-phone. It's just funnels, plastic tubing, duct tape, and then, like I said, we've got the goofy tongue twisters, but you don't really need to post anything if you don't want to, because the kids find gibberish and other things to talk. So I have a little video here so you can see what it is. Oh, there we go.
Hi, Jenna. We're not hearing the sound on it,
no.
And that's okay. No, it's okay. That just doesn't work that way within the webinars, but if the link is there, everyone will be able to hear it when we when I post your slides afterwards. So
okay,
just
wonderful.
wanted to let you know.
Great, thanks. Yep, and you do get the general idea of how it is set up over the shelves that way, so we don't have the dangling tube in the way. One thing I will suggest that if you do this, make sure the tubing isn't too curled. For some reason, the sound doesn't travel as well. I'm sure there's some sort of law of physics reason for that, but it's been really great. We've got 2 set up, and even though the one doesn't work as well, it's provided really great conversation opportunities to talk about, hey, this one works great, but why is this whispermophone not working as well? And the adults are loving it as well. They are getting just as much of a kick out of these whispermophones as the kids are. Another thing that we utilized our shelves with is whose farm is this end caps? And this could be done with any variety of STEAM topics, really. Art and artists, old technology and what it did, inventions and inventors, a huge plethora of ideas. So here's a brief picture of what we printed out. On this side, the picture, whose farm is this with the trees, is on the outside, and then the white space right here was the taped down side. So it's kind of like opening a birthday or a holiday card, up. And then you would flip it up to reveal the answer on the inside. So whose farm is this? Open it up, and there's a great description and another wonderful picture. And we had lots of different farms on our end caps. We had a buffalo farm, dairy farm, different orchards, cranberries, and each little picture would also offer a question. So if an adult or a child was reading it, at the end there was a interesting topic to talk about as well. So they're not just reading it and thinking about it, they have a way to talk about it as well. And these were great fun as well. And because they were on our end caps, we could leave them up, kind of forget about them, and then let the kids do their thing. And then a couple months later, we switched them out for something else. Math in family story time. Like I said, I'm horrible at math, but I'm very good at toddler math. So the first picture is counting tallies. I started doing this at my previous library, and it was wonderful. Every time we would do story time, I would set out this whiteboard, and then as the kids and the adults would come in, they would just draw a line. And then a lot of the adults would have the kids draw a line as well under that column for them. So not only are they practicing their writing skills, when we would begin story time, we would find out how many people are there. So we would go around the circle and we would count each body sitting down, and then we would count the tallies on the board, and oh, the number is the same. So it was a great way to do simple math in a very fun way that the kids could relate to. It was right then, it was right there, and it was very, very easy. The next picture of the large brown paper is a size comparison to a polar bear. I can't draw for anything, so there was no way I was going to be able to draw a polar bear. So what we did was, before story time started, I taped up this piece of paper, and then I used a measuring stick and drew a line where its shoulder was when it stands on its 4 feet, and then when it would stand on its hind feet. So average shoulders was 5'3", which wonderfully enough is exactly how tall I am. And then the tallest was 6 feet 6 inches when they stand on their hind legs. And then the kids would get to go up, and we would use the measuring tape, and we would draw lines where each kid was. And they loved that. They loved comparing with each other and comparing with the animals. They asked wonderful questions during this. Well, how tall is this thing, and how tall is that thing? So then we would go and we would look it up, and we would compare that as well. And then I posted this for a little while after that story time, so other kids who came in who weren't able to attend story time, I could measure them as well and have that great conversation with them, even if they didn't get to attend story time. The next picture is length of different sea animals. Now, you can't really go out and get a dolphin and bring a dolphin to story time, but what you can do is get crepe paper or other things like yarn or what have you, and measure them out the different lengths of sea creatures. So we did small fish all the way to a big blue whale. I measured yarn so it was the length of a big blue whale, and these kids loved it. They loved working together, stretching out the crepe paper and seeing how long they were, walking on the crepe paper, laying next to the crepe paper. And then when we got to the bigger animals, we realized some of them are bigger than the library, and they just loved knowing that and having that physical object there instead of just talking about it, that you could really see them thinking about, wow, if an animal is this big, how big is the ocean? And we had wonderful conversations about different lengths of animals. And just like the polar bear, they then asked, well, how long is this animal? How long is this thing? How long is my car? And they would leave having wonderful conversations, not only with myself, but with their parents and guardians. And the next picture is me with my 10 silly pigtails. Now, I'm not a huge fan of 1 little, 2 little, 3 little thingies, but this was a really fun and silly way. I was just about to shave my head for St. Baldrick's Day Foundation, so I kind of wanted to do something fun. So I was like, oh, let's do 10 little silly pigtails for a hair story time. So we would sing it, and I would take out a ponytail. And they would talk about this for months after, and I had parents saying, oh, why did you do that story? Now they want me to put my hair in pigtails. But that was great. They were taking what they heard at story time and moving it out of the library and into their homes and into their lives. And that is what we want. We want them to take these skills and remember them elsewhere. Some other open-ended programs that we did here in Chippewa Falls, we had a cardboard party. Unfortunately, we were having so much fun that we did not take any pictures of our cardboard party, but we contacted local businesses and asked staff to save cardboard from work and from home. And then we had these wonderful gadgets and tools to cut the cardboard and connect the cardboard. So if you get a chance, visit Make-A-Do or Mr. McGroovy's. They've got screws and saws, very child-friendly objects to make these fantastic cardboard creations that they made. We also did flotation devices, very similar to what Emily was talking about with the pennies and the aluminum foil. I pulled out lots of random stuff, completely random art and craft supplies that I knew floated in water, and I put them on a cart, and we read a book about water safety, and we read a book about swimming, and then I provided these plastic dollhouse people and tubs of water, and they went crazy. This was a kind of a drop-in program for a couple of hours. Some kids stayed for 2.5 hours creating these flotation devices for these dollhouse people. It was so popular. The object was to design a life jacket that would keep the dollhouse people floating. There was lots of trial and error and redesigning, and then providing other challenges from me or challenges between the kids. Coming up with their own challenges is a great way to continue learning, and I was so proud of them. And then we did another bridge activity similar to what Emily did. Again, lots of random stuff that I set out on a cart, and I read a book about building bridges, as in connecting with people, and then we read a book about bridge design, and then I challenged them to build a bridge with these things over the crepe paper, so different plastic animals could cross without falling off or touching the water. And then we had a large tablecloth, so once they were able to do this successfully, they could move on and they could try building a bridge over this large tablecloth canyon, and that proved to be much trickier, and the collaboration between the kids was fantastic with this program as well. Lots of working together and overcoming obstacles, and it was so great to see them, and the parents too were just stunned by the skills that these kids were learning. All right, and to finish up, I'm not going to go into any of these links, but I did want to provide a few resources for you of websites that I've used over the years and currently do. I've even included our current Facebook page, so if you wanted to go and look at photos from our programs here at Chippewa Falls. And then I included a link there at the bottom to my Fall Creek Public Library blog. I used to blog a lot and kind of lesson plans, I guess you would say, lesson plans for story times and different programs that I offered. You can go and read more and see pictures of the after-school programs and different story time things that I did. All right, if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you now or later, and thank you very much.
And Emily for sharing all of that awesome information. It was amazing. And I do have to add one thing. You alluded to it at the end, Jenna, so I'm glad that you did. You mentioned kind of team building things and the kids working together to create the bridge and all the other thing. And when I think it was Emily with the marshmallows at a leadership workshop that I was recently at, we did the marshmallow with straws and building, the highest thing. So just, that some of these things are not just for kids. They can also be used in staff development, those kind of things. So feel free to take this to your staff on a different level as well. So just wanted to pass that along. If anyone has any questions, we have a minute or so left. I haven't seen any come in, Leah. I don't think I missed any, but let me know if I did. Otherwise, I'll just wait just a second for anything else to come in. I do have everyone's handout or slides, so I will post those tomorrow along with the recording. If you have any questions, all of our presenters' contact information is there as well. And thank you, YSS, for sponsoring this, and thank you to all of our presenters today. Thanks, everyone.